when letting go becomes a duty. In the depth of human experience, there are pivotal moments when we realize that clinging to certain relationships, ideas, or political systems brings us nothing but inner bleeding. The attached image expresses this truth with shocking clarity. One figure is torn apart while desperately holding onto strings tied to another who walks away, leaving the heart bleeding behind. This image is not only about love or personal ties, it is a grand metaphor for life itself, for the fact that holding on to what hurts us can become a form of slow suicide. From a philosophical perspective, this scene reminds us of the tension between freedom and suffering. Human beings naturally fear emptiness and search for meaning to anchor themselves in. Yet often, we misdirect our will and cling to what has become a burden rather than a support. Here we encounter what Nietzsche called the will to power, the courage to cut the cords that drain our lives, even if it means facing temporary loneliness. Remaining attached to what no longer serves us, whether an idea, a relationship, or a power, means nothing but decline into nothingness. Politically, the image carries an even deeper meaning. How many nations have clung to authoritarian regimes or false promises, even though they gained nothing but pain, repression, and stagnation? Clinging to dead ideologies or corrupt leaders is much like holding on to those bleeding strings. The tighter the grip, the worse the wound. The longer we postpone the act of cutting, the more enslaved we become to our broken will. Modern history is full of examples of peoples who found liberation only when they dared to let go. Of colonialism, of dictators, or of the illusion that freedom can be granted from above. The advice embedded in this image transcends personal emotion. It becomes a principle for both individual and collective life. Holding on to what destroys us is not virtue, but weakness. Philosophy teaches us that true virtue lies in the power to liberate ourselves, in confronting reality, no matter how painful. Politics, too, shows us that nations cannot rise unless they shed the heavy weights of the past and boldly rewrite their destiny. The image also carries a moral dimension. The departing figure holds scissors, meaning they have the option to cut the bonds, but they leave the other in pain. Perhaps because they have already found their freedom in departure. The one left behind is trapped in illusion, believing that holding on is an act of loyalty or hope, while in reality it is nothing but a destructive attachment. This mirrors societies that wait endlessly for reform from powers that have no interest in their well-being. The lesson is clear. If you do not cut the cords of pain yourself, your bleeding will continue until you lose your very self. Philosophically, the most beautiful conclusion we can draw is that letting go is not betrayal. It can be the highest form of love, for oneself and for the other. When we free ourselves from the chains of the past, we grant ourselves the chance to grow, and we grant others the space to follow their path. Politically, letting go of a leader, a party, or an idea that no longer serves the common good is not a betrayal of loyalty to the nation. It is the highest form of loyalty, because it is loyalty to the future rather than to the past. Ultimately, The advice that this image conveys is simple, yet profound. Never sanctify pain, and never turn loss into an idol. Freedom begins at the moment we recognize that some doors must be closed, and some cords must be cut, even if blood is shed in the process. Letting go is not weakness. It is a duty when holding on becomes a burden that kills us. As a conclusion, life is a journey, and politics is its collective extension. The only way forward is through the courage to cut, the philosophy of letting go, and the faith that what awaits us is greater than what binds us. Let our choice always be to free ourselves before we bleed to death, and to claim our right to live with dignity in our personal lives and in our nations.